This episode of Settle the Score is sponsored by Sky Sports. Stream Sky Sports flexibly on Now. What you want, when you want, no fuss. Go to nowtv.com to start streaming Sky Sports today. Hello and welcome to Settle the Score. My name is Harry Durham. Chelsea, massive 3 points over Tottenham in North London over the weekend. Moises Caicedo was an absolute colossus in that midfield. Spurs, I mean, there's so much to dissect. Chelsea, there's so much praise to be given. I'm pleased to say that Dave Chidge from the Chelsea Fancast and Chris Cowlin from Spurs Chat join me now. Dave, let's kick off with you then. As a Chelsea fan, right, I thought it was a comfortable Chelsea performance. I'm saying that as a Chelsea fan like I am. I'm the neutral here. I'm a Fulham supporter. But did you expect a bit more from Spurs? I mean, watching it on Sky at the weekend on my sofa, Saturday night, tucked in, it was a great game, but I just expected a little bit more from Tottenham.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I mean, they hardly laid a glove on us. That was really odd. I mean, it's a London derby. It's a really big derby for both clubs. You know, there's usually a lot of edge, a lot of sendings off, lots of nasty tackles, but there wasn't much of that at all. I mean, you could argue that we just dominated so much and smothered them that it made it very difficult for them. But yeah, I was a bit surprised about how limp they were, really.
Chris, your response to that? Did you feel like the Tottenham's performance was a bit limp?
I thought it was absolutely a disgraceful performance, to be honest. Booed off at half-time, booed off at full-time. And, like David said, you expect a London derby to be very feisty. You expect tackles to be flying in. You expect the passion. We just didn't get that. And the XG, we created a Premier League record on Saturday, 0.05 XG for Tottenham. Ouch. Absolutely terrible. And I really do worry about our forward line. Dominic Solanke hasn't played a Premier League minute so far this campaign, and when you've got the likes of Richarlison, Tel, Mawani up front, I feel like we're lacking that real firepower up front. And to only have one shot on target in the game, which was a tame shot by Mohamed Kudus, and I must say that Cucurella took out our star man Kudus on Saturday, and without his creativity in the final third, we were really, really lacking. And the fans were booing again. It's not a good look for Thomas Frank. It's not a good look that Jed Spence and Mickey van der Ven blanked the manager at full time as well. And the fans are really unhappy at the moment. And we're just wondering where we're going with this new manager, because I know David said about the league position. We were sat in third going into the game, but we're now down to fifth. We're 2 points away from second, but we're also 2 points away from being 11th. But overall, I think a lot of us need to remember that we did finish 17th in the league last year, but we did expect a lot more, and we certainly expected to be entertained.
I think it's that weird thing. You mentioned the table there. I think between third to 11th or 12th, I think there's 3 points that separates it. It was a weird sort of situation, wasn't it, at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, where, it was towards the end of the game, Vicario had that free kick and he played it short, and the fans booed, but then the camera went straight on to Thomas Frank, and he was sort of just applauding it and doing some bits and pieces with his hand, almost like he didn't know how to react to the Tottenham fans booing what was going on. But I've been so impressed with Mohamed Kudus since he signed from West Ham. But there's another player that we've got to speak about, and that's Xavi Simons. Because Xavi Simons is obviously playing for Tottenham Hotspur, and he was linked to joining Chelsea for a majority of the window. Dave, you must be thinking, obviously we know that Chelsea spend big every single transfer window and they bring in X amount of names. You must be over the moon that you potentially dodged a bullet in Xavi Simons.
Yeah, it looks like we did, didn't we? I mean, Chelsea reject was ringing out from the away end, and I was glad to be joining in with that. But I think that the interesting and perhaps the more salient point is, I mean, something we've been moaning about is the lack of physicality, or the lack of big, physically big players in the side. And Xavi's quite short, quite slight, and he was getting bullied off the ball. And I mean, to get bullied off the ball by Chelsea players says quite a lot, I think, because as I said, quite often that happens to us. I mean, Sunderland did it to us the other week, for example. So, yeah, look at Arsenal. It's the land of giants, isn't it? So, football is a very big physical game in this country. And if you're not up to it physically, you're not going to do well, I think.
Chris, are you a bit underwhelmed like this start of the season? Obviously, off the back of winning the Europa League, I know it's like a new manager and whatnot. Thomas Frank is established in the Premier League, but from what you're seeing on the pitch, and I know you have injuries to Dominic Solanke as well, are you a bit underwhelmed by some of the performances that have been put in 10 games in?
Well, talking about Javi Simmons, we thought we were signing Morgan Gibbs-White in the summer. And then, of course, we thought we were signing Eze. And then it went to Javi Simmons. And I'll tell you what, I've seen glimpses from Simmons that I do like him. And I think that he can play a pass that a lot of other players don't see. And Thomas Frank, rightly said that in a press conference as well. But physicality, as David said there, physicality is the big issue. He needs to bulk up. And, the Premier League is very physical, especially to where he's played before in various leagues. But, it looks like we're going to have to be patient. But the Spurs fans at the moment thought that we were buying a ready-made player to come in and make that real difference and be that creative spark with the likes of James Maddison and Kulusevski out as well, who we are desperately missing. But the home form is absolutely abysmal at Tottenham right now under multiple different managers. We have won only 3 games in our last 19 Premier League matches. And I don't know whether you saw the stat, but we've been in the Tottenham Stadium now for 6.5 years. We've lost 41 Premier League games. Arsenal have only lost 48 Premier League games in their 19 years at the Emirates.
Do you want to know something funny? I sent that to Dave last night. And I said, hey, here's a bit of ammunition for you, Dave.
Yeah, well, I've said it. I've saved you the job. 20 Premier League home games, though, played in 2025. Only 4 wins, 4 draws, 12 defeats. That is 0.8 points per game. That is not good enough. And like I said earlier, Thomas Frank has come in. He has steadied the ship. We are a much better defensive side, although, the Chelsea game on Saturday, Vicario saved us from it being, embarrassing. But I just don't get it. A journalist asked in the press conference after the Chelsea game, what went wrong? Because how can you be 1-0 down at half time at home against one of your biggest rivals and you don't come out with that fight, with that aggression, and certainly we didn't have a shot in that second half. How can that happen? And like you mentioned, Harry, earlier, that, right at the end of the game, we had a free kick. It played back to Vicario, and Vicario kicked it and it went up to Sanchez. And people were just so frustrated. There was a real lack of creativity and something desperately needs to change because, Thomas Frank was brought in. He's been, said to all of us that he is a tactical magician. And something needs to change. I'm not saying change the manager. I'm not saying that we need, to change the manager, so early on in his reign. But something desperately needs to change within this team because the real lack of creativity and the lack of doing.
It's funny you mentioned the stadium as well, because, when clubs move into a new stadium, it's always like people say about the atmosphere, the acoustics. I mean, West Ham, it's the running track of the old Olympic Stadium and whatnot. I've been to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for going away as a Fulham fan, going there for work as well. The atmosphere is top notch, and I'd say it's one of the best in the Premier League. And,
for certain games. For
certain games. I've been to a North London derby there as well. But even when I went with Fulham, it was high energy. It was, when the Spurs with the little trumpet coming out at the start is always big. But, it's just tactical at this point, isn't it? And you can't really follow Chelsea's history and sacking manager and bringing a new manager in, because I think we're in a bit of a crisis at the moment, Chris, and I'll stick with you on this one. We're in a bit of a crisis in the Premier League in the sense of, if it were to go wrong with Thomas Frank, who do you even get in? That's because there's not even standout candidates at the moment. You're not going to bring in Brendan Rodgers.
Oh, come on. We can't surely have this conversation about replacing Thomas Frank already.
No, but if it came to that, that's the thing.
The amount of managers that Spurs have gone through, of course, Ange Postecoglou wins us a trophy and then he gets the sack. You just couldn't write all this stuff. The amount of managers that we've gone through, even at this stadium, I think 7-8 managers have been in the dugout since 2019. And it's crazy. The going around in circles all the time. What I would say is you keep Thomas Frank here, but you really do back him in the transfer windows. I know January window is a difficult one, but we need real depth and we need real firepower. As I said, in that final third, you need a player who can actually put the ball in the net. We've gone from Harry Kane and Heung-min Son to Tel Mawani and Richarlison up front. And it is like chalk and cheese. It is not good enough. And we need a lot better players, better calibre of player coming in. And vast amounts of money needs to be spent.
Dave, you can have a word of the Chelsea hierarchy, can't you, and get them to offload a few players that you're not using to go to Tottenham in January, can't you?
We don't want their rejects.
No, I mean Roman, very famously would never sell any players to Tottenham. There's that whole enmity between us. I was going to say though, I mean, there's probably a few more ex-Chelsea managers that Spurs could hire, Chris. I mean,
Not again.
Potter's
Not again.
available,
No
isn't he?
more.
You can have Potter.
No more. No.
I don't know. I mean, going back to what you were saying, both of you, about the lack of fight, it is remarkable. I mean, no matter how bad Chelsea can be, we were talking about this on the show the other night. No matter who the manager is, who the players are, who the owners are, they all seem to get how important this fixture is, which is laudable, I think. But they really do. They get up for it, and as I said, I was worried before, but they were really up for it, and they did show that fight. They were really aggressive. They pressed them everywhere. They hunted in packs. They were putting in feisty tackles. I'm just so pleased that that they always seem to get up for this, because we do. For us, it's massive. It's really important to beat them. That record that we've got against Spurs is phenomenal, and we love keeping it going. So I'm just so pleased the players showed that fight as well. And I feel for Chris, because, the one thing you demand of your players is that they put in a shift and they fight for it, and fight for the badge and you, isn't it?
This is what's so frustrating about this particular fixture, whether it's at home or away. At the Tottenham Stadium now, Chelsea have come 7 times, you've won 6 times, 6 out of 7. It's just not good enough. We've only won once in Premier League history at Stamford Bridge. That is not good enough. Even our biggest rivals, Arsenal, we've only won once at the Emirates, once at Highbury in Premier League history, and they seem to come to the Tottenham Stadium and get a good result. Against these biggest rivals, Chelsea and Arsenal, Spurs need to do better. Whether it's a mentality thing, whether it's a quality thing, that needs to change, and fast, because you cannot go into such an important game and not give a passionate performance and not give it a real go. And like I said, XG 0.05 on Saturday, that is far from good enough. And the fans are booing so early on in Thomas Frank's reign. It's not good enough.
Chris, I was wondering if, because I mean, like we said earlier on, quite often they get a bit naughty and out of hand. You get a few sendings off and things. But I was wondering if Thomas Frank had told them to be really calm and measured about it. Maybe that's what he went wrong. Maybe he's just let them off the leash and say, "Come on, this is Chelsea, get into them." And we could have had a right scrap.
Absolutely. And in the press conference, Thomas Frank actually said on a couple of occasions that he was confident that we would do well in this game and in this fixture. And when you look at Chelsea's red card record leading up to this game, if anything, I would have thought
Are you all geared up for this making tax digital thing? I keep worrying I'm going to get something really obvious wrong.
Don't worry, mate, you'll be all right.
I've got better things to do.
Worried about what MTD means for you? Sage makes it simpler for sole traders with helpful tax estimates. Get your free MTD...
Come on, this is Chelsea, get into them, and we could have had a right scrap.
Absolutely. And in the press conference, Thomas Frank actually said on a couple of occasions that he was confident that we would do well in this game and in this fixture. And when you look at Chelsea's red card record leading up to this game, if anything, I would have thought a Chelsea player would have got sent off through someone like Christian Romero. I think the lineup was actually wrong. Romero ended up coming off the bench. He probably should have started the game.
Romero was a bit of a peacemaker on Saturday as well, which I know the commentators, and I think a lot of us, no matter where you were watching around the world, I'm pretty sure a lot of Argentinian Spurs fans and Chelsea fans are watching it and thinking, hey, that's not the guy that represents us at international level.
Harry, since he's been given the captain's armband this season, he has been the peacemaker, I think, on 3 occasions that I've seen. I think it was Leeds away, João Palhinha was getting into an argument, and Romero came over and said, calm down. You thought, what on earth is going on? He did the same for Richarlison away at Man City, and we're not used to seeing this part of his game. I like that. I like that edge about Romero, and given the captain's armband, he seems to be a lot more calm.
Dave, should Bentancur have been sent off for his little stamp on Reece James?
Well, I'm a bit biased, and I'm bound to say yes. I mean, it was tough to see it, live there, because it's a bit far away from me. But yeah, seeing it back on the telly, I mean, it's kind of, they were saying, weren't they, saying, well, the impact wasn't, wasn't really hard, and it was on his ankle more than higher up. But I mean, I thought it was a naughty tackle. I think he should have gone.
Chris, your response? Do you think the referee made the right decision in not sending him off?
I didn't see it. I'm going to give a manager's response. Didn't see it. I had to see the replay. No, it's. Do you know what? We needed to have seen more tackles like this in this game. We like we said, we're talking about a London derby. The London derby. You need to see tackles flying in like that. But when you're talking about tackles and referees and VAR and decisions, etc., it's just not consistent. And I think that is the problem in the Premier League right now.
I thought he let a lot go, actually, Gillette. I mean, there were a lot of fouls going on that he just was waving on all the time. I mean, for both sides, not just for us.
Sometimes in a London derby, though, not that it was as feisty as I would have liked on Saturday, but sometimes you just need to let the game pan out and let them play.
Yeah, I mean, we moan when he's blowing up all the time, so I suppose we shouldn't moan when he lets it go, to be fair.
Gents, I'm going to finish off with this one. Dave, I'd love to pick your brains more about Moises Caicedo, but, what was it, 2 or 3 weeks ago off the back of Liverpool when you were saying he was one of the best set defensive midfielders.
Sorry, Harry, you mugged me off by me saying he was the best in the world. Who's laughing now?
Well, Declan Rice did have a good weekend as well, didn't he, up at Burnley? But I think Moises Caicedo is sensational, and, what he did for that goal at the weekend as well. He's such a... I always say, because we had Joao Palhinha at Fulham, and he was...
Good player.
Absolutely top of the range, always sliding in for a tackle, always putting his body on the line, and he was good at going forwards as well. And that made me fall in love more with sort of like central defensive midfielders. But Moises Caicedo has absolutely everything. Guys, to finish off, it has been it's good to see both of you getting along on this Monday morning as well. I mean, it would have been pretty strange if Chris was coming on and sort of like battering you, Dave, because Chris knows exactly where his football club stands at the moment. I respect that. But Chris, you mentioned it sort of at the top, and it's been studied under a microscope at the back end of this weekend. I mean, everyone's had the Zoom and everyone's seen the reaction, and that is, Mickey van der Ven and Jed Spence blanking Thomas Frank. And I want to get both of your opinions on this, because I think it's just more of a, general footballing opinion where it's like, you can't really do that to the gaffer. I mean, it's not like you could sort of understand it if people did it to Vitor Pereira when he was in the job, because now obviously he's been given his P45 and I hope he's doing well at the managerial job centre. But in situations like that, Chris, I'll start with you, with it obviously being your club. What do you seriously make of that? 2 of your best players in that back line sort of just, shouldering them away.
Harry, when I shot that video, I saw Jed Spence and Mickey van der Ven coming towards Thomas Frank. And of course, Thomas Frank always, after every single game, whether we win, lose or draw, and I understand he's done exactly the same at Brentford, he goes around, applauds the fans. He's gone up to Jed Spence and Mickey van der Ven. Mickey van der Ven wasn't going to even look his way. He was just going forward, and he wanted to go straight down that tunnel. Boos echoed around the stadium, as I've mentioned, and Jed Spence clearly did not want to go over to the fans or engage in any way at all. And they just wanted to get off the pitch. I can see it from a player's point of view. You just want to get down that tunnel and you want to go in. You've just lost to a biggest rival, and the fans are booing. Nobody's happy. Some would say, why do they want to engage? However, a lot of fans pay a lot of money, take days off work, travel from all over the world to come and see us play. They just want to see some of the players go over and be applauded. And a couple of them actually tried to run down the tunnel midweek on Wednesday against Newcastle when 5,000 fans had travelled, and there were no trains back on Wednesday either. So I think it's the least that they can do. Yeah. So it is disappointing. I don't think Thomas Frank sees it as a problem. I think that this will move on very, very quickly. It needs to. We've got 2 big games coming up this week, Copenhagen on Tuesday and Man United on Saturday. So everything needs to just, be swept under the carpet, really, and move on from it.
I mean, I think, Harry, you're right. I think, as you say, the fans are booing. And, I think, 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 the fans are boo I tell you what, Harry, I totally agree with Chris there. I mean, it used to bug us when we've had various times in the recent past where the players don't come and applaud the fans, and it really grinds my gears when it's at an away match, as you said, Chris. I mean, we spend a lot of money, time, and effort wandering around the ground, and I mean, okay, I'm not a fan of booing the team, to be honest, but even so, there should be some respect there for the supporters who make that effort. And if you just want to whiz down the tunnel, it shows a complete lack of self-awareness, I think.
Gents, thank you so much for your time on this Monday morning. Like Chris mentioned there, obviously we've got European action this week, and then Spurs face Manchester United, and Chelsea against Wolves. Oh, new manager's bounce, I sense, for Wolverhampton Wanderers. And what better team to play than Chelsea, who are actually looking mighty solid at the moment. Chris, Dave, thank you very much. I'll speak to you both very soon. This episode of Settle the Score is sponsored by Sky Sports. Stream Sky Sports flexibly on Now. What you want, when you want, no fuss. Go to nowtv.com to start streaming Sky Sports